I'm Elsie, 22 years old, and I just earned my biochemistry degree from Northwestern. My parents always disapproved of my choices, yet they threw me a lavish graduation party. Odd, since they called me a worthless leech just days before. As I watched the champagne bubbles rise, I saw my father slip white powder into my glass when he thought no one noticed. My heart froze. My own father was trying to poison me. If you're watching this, drop your hometown in the comments. Like and subscribe as I share how I survived my parents' betrayal and found strength I didn't know I had. To get why they'd want to hurt me, you need to know my family. The Harrisas weren't a warm, loving bunch. My father, Joseph Harris, turned Harris Pharmaceuticals from a tiny lab into a billion-dollar giant. His cutthroat tactics were infamous. Rivals lost funding or hit regulatory snags out of nowhere. Yet, in public, he played the generous family man. My mother, Eleanor, came from old wealth. Her family was in pharmaceuticals for generations before she married Dad and merged their businesses. She was obsessed with our image and the Harris legacy. Our home graced magazine covers, and her Chicago charity galas were legendary. But at home, she was icy, scheming, and always picking at my flaws. My sister, Sophia, 3 years older, was their golden child, straight-A student, debate team captain, and a Harvard Business School grad with honors. She joined the family company without a second thought, clearly their heir. They never missed her tennis matches or piano recitals, showcasing her trophies proudly. When she spoke, they hung on her every word. My reality was the opposite. Despite my own straight-A record, my achievements got shrugs. "That's just Harris standard," Dad would mutter, buried in his newspaper. When I won the state science fair in 10th grade, Mom only remarked my hair looked messy in photos. They showed up to my events only to avoid gossip. From early on, they had my life planned: study pharmaceutical sciences, join the family business, and lead research while Sophia ran operations. My objections didn't matter. When I got hooked on environmental science in high school, especially how pharmaceutical waste harms ecosystems, Dad scoffed, calling it tree-hugger nonsense. In my junior year, I applied to Northwestern for their environmental science program. The fight was brutal. Dad threatened to cut me off financially. Mom sobbed about family duty. I held firm, insisting I could make a difference my way. After weeks of cold silence, they gave in, but with strings. They'd fund my education if I minored in biochemistry and interned at their company. College gave me some freedom, but tensions grew yearly. Holiday breaks brought snide remarks about my phase and how I'd come around. Junior year, they pushed harder, sending job listings for their research department. When I landed an internship at an environmental nonprofit instead, they threatened to stop paying tuition. I took out loans for my final year to stay independent. They didn't know until recently about the trust my grandmother, Eleanor's mom, left me. It would kick in when I turned 23 or graduated, whichever came last. Grandma Lillian, a brilliant chemist overshadowed by her husband, was my only supporter. Before she died when I was 16, she made me promise to follow my path. 3 months before graduation, their lawyer slipped up and mentioned the trust at a family meeting. Sophia said Dad went pale with fury. The trust, worth $12 million, was airtight, set up with independent trustees, granting me total financial freedom, money they'd get if I didn't graduate or died first. The lead up to graduation was eerily calm. The usual flood of texts and calls about company jobs stopped. Instead, Mom called, insisting on a grand Harris-style graduation party. Their sudden interest should have tipped me off. Graduation morning was bright, a perfect Chicago May day. Adjusting my cap in my apartment mirror, I felt pride mixed with nerves. After 4 years of a 3.9 GPA, carving my own path against my family's legacy, I'd made it. My phone pinged with Mom's text, "Car service at 9:30. Don't be late." Outside the auditorium, Dad was glued to his phone, Mom eyeing me critically. "Couldn't you do more with your hair?" she said as a greeting. Photographers taking family shots later. No congrats, just critique. Sophia stood nearby, offering a quiet, supportive smile. Elsie. My best friend Taylor's voice broke the tension. She ran over in her graduation gown, Zoe right behind her. They were my college lifeline, my chosen family. We did it. Taylor hugged me tight, whispering, "Your parents still look like they're smelling something rotten when they see you." "Some things never change," I whispered back, forcing a grin. My friends buzzed about the ceremony and our plan to share an apartment as we launched our careers. Then I noticed my parents step aside, locked in a heated whisper. I caught Dad's voice, "We need to fix this today before it spirals." Mom nodded, her face grim, but when she saw me watching, she flashed a fake smile. "Darling, let's find our seats. The ceremony's starting soon." The graduation flew by in a haze of speeches and applause. When Elsie Elizabeth Harris, summa cum laude, rang out, Taylor and Zoe cheered like crazy. My parents clapped, their faces blank, giving nothing away. Afterward, a car whisked us to the Peninsula Chicago. My parents had booked the entire rooftop terrace for my graduation party. I was floored: ice sculptures, champagne fountains, gourmet food stations, and a small orchestra in the corner. Flowers covered every table, and a photographer snapped shots of early guests. "Your parents went all out," Dr. Lewis said, handing me a water. He'd been Dad's research partner years ago before teaching at Northwestern. He was my mentor, a rare link to my family's world I actually liked. "Congrats on your big win, Elsie." "Thanks. It's over the top, right?" Not their usual vibe for me. I scanned the crowd. Half these people are strangers to me. Dr. Lewis glanced at Dad talking with two suited men. "Business associates," he said. "And over there with your mom?" "That's Gerald Thorne, your family's lawyer." His voice dropped. "The company's been tense. Rumors of shady clinical trials. Your dad's been in secret meetings for weeks." My stomach knotted. "What kind of shady?" He shook his head. "Nothing solid. Just, be cautious, Elsie. Your parents seem obsessed with protecting the Harris name right now." As the party ramped up, I felt their eyes on me. Not with pride or even their usual disappointment, just a cold, calculating stare that chilled me. Every time I moved to a new group, one of them shifted to keep me in sight. Sophia slipped beside me as I grabbed a snack. "Something's off," she whispered. "Dad asked 3 times if you've shared your post-grad plans. And Mom keeps checking her watch, like she's waiting for something." Before I could answer, Dad clinked his glass for attention. 15 minutes until a special toast for the graduate," he said, his smile all business. "Grab a glass, everyone." I watched waiters prep champagne flutes on trays. Dad pointed out a gold-labeled bottle to the head waiter. "That one," he said. "Family only." With 15 minutes to the toast, I ducked out to the restroom. The main one had a line, so I headed down a service hall to an employee bathroom. As I neared, I heard sharp whispers around the corner. "Is this really necessary?" Mom's voice was tight, higher than usual. "Do you want to lose everything?" Dad snapped. "The FDA's closing in. If they find those test results, we're done." Her trust gives her enough to go rogue. What if she exposes the West facility's river contamination? She's always been preachy enough to do it. Drugging her at her own party, Joseph? Can't we just talk to her? Talk? She's too stubborn. It's just enough to make her sick, not kill her. A few days in the hospital, looking like food poisoning. That buys us time to shift assets before her trust kicks in. The lawyers said if she dies before next week's transfer, the money's ours. Quiet. Mom hissed. Someone might hear. My blood ran cold. I pressed against the wall, barely breathing. My parents were planning to poison me. The truth was so horrifying, I almost didn't believe it. But my biochemist brain kicked in, a non-lethal dose, something to mimic food poisoning, enough to land me in the hospital. I slipped back down the hall, hands trembling as I checked my makeup in the main bathroom mirror. I had to stay calm, think straight. Years of dodging their mind games had taught me to shut off panic, but this was a nightmare. Back at the party, I watched closely. Waiters set up a special tray of flutes. Dad inspected them, setting one glass aside. The gold-labeled bottle was opened, and the bartender poured. Dad stayed close, making sure he knew which glass was which. I found Taylor and Zoe, keeping my voice steady. "I need a favor, no questions," I whispered. Taylor nodded instantly, always loyal. "Record the toast on your phone. Focus on Dad, especially when he hands out the champagne." "Everything okay?" Zoe asked, worry in her eyes. "Just family drama," I said, faking a smile. "You know how it is." The minutes dragged painfully. My biochem training raced. What could Dad use? Something hard to detect, maybe from their labs, not on standard tox screens. It'd mimic food poisoning, nausea, vomiting, maybe dizziness or breathing issues. If it hit, I'd need to spot the signs fast and guide the doctors. As Dad called everyone for the toast, it hit me, I needed proof. Refusing the drink would just delay their next move. I needed hard evidence, something undeniable. The toast felt unreal. Waiters passed out champagne to guests, but Dad handled the special bottle himself. "Only the best for family," he said cheerfully to those nearby. He gave glasses to Mom, then Sophia, then handed one to me, his smile cold as his eyes locked on mine. I saw it in slow motion. The glass he gave me had a cloudy residue at the bottom, powder not fully dissolved. His signet ring gleamed as he pushed it into my hand. "To Elsie," he said loudly, raising his glass. "May your future be everything you deserve." The hidden threat hit me hard. I took the poisoned champagne, careful not to let it touch my lips as others sipped. "Before we drink," Mom cut in smoothly, "Joseph, why not say a few words about our daughter's big day?" Dad cleared his throat, slipping into his polished public persona. "Elsie's always been headstrong," he said, his words sounding kind to others but dripping with years of disapproval only I could catch. "She's taken her own path, but today, we celebrate her success." His veiled jabs kept coming, and my mind spun. Taylor was filming, her phone quietly catching every moment. I had to act fast, the toast was almost over. The champagne in my hand felt like a ticking bomb. "And to Sophia," Dad added, throwing everyone off by shifting the spotlight, "who's shown what a true Harris can do in business, a shining example of loyalty." Sophia's smile faltered, clearly blindsided by being dragged into my moment. That's when I knew what to do. "Speaking of my incredible sister," I said, stepping forward with a forced grin, "I wouldn't be here without her." I faced Sophia, raising my glass. "She deserves a toast too." "Here," I pushed my untouched flute toward her, "take this special champagne Dad picked. It's too good not to share." Before anyone could blink, I swapped my glass for Sophia's half-drunk one. Dad's face froze in silent panic he couldn't show. Mom's grip on her glass tightened, her fake smile cracking. "To family," I said, lifting Sophia's safe champagne, staring straight into Dad's eyes. Confusion flashed across Sophia's face, but she played along, raising my glass. "To family," she echoed, taking a deep drink from the poisoned one. I sipped from her glass, locking eyes with Dad. His face turned pale, sweat beading on his forehead as he realized I'd outmaneuvered him. Mom darted glances between him and Sophia, her polished mask slipping. The moment passed. Guests clapped, chatter resumed, and the orchestra played on. I mingled, keeping Sophia in my sight. Guilt and fear churned inside me. I'd had no time to think, but I'd let my sister drink poison meant for me. I'd overheard it was non-lethal, but what if Dad lied to Mom? What if Sophia's body reacted badly? 34 minutes later, it hit. I was chatting with a professor when a gasp cut through the room. "Sophia, talking with a company associate, clutched her forehead, swaying. I feel weird, she slurred, her voice off. So dizzy. I shoved through the crowd as Sophia's legs gave out. The associate caught her as she slumped. Help, he shouted. Something's wrong. My parents rushed over, panic in their eyes now that their perfect daughter was hit, not me. Dad cradled her head as she mumbled, her skin gray, sweat glistening on her brow. Call an ambulance. Mom screamed, her composure gone. Dr. Lewis appeared beside me, checking Sophia's pulse. Her heart's racing, irregular, he said, loosening her collar. What happened before this? Just champagne at the toast, the associate said. She was fine, then. Dad's eyes met mine, fear and fury flashing. I stared back, unflinching. Ambulance is 5 minutes out, someone called. I knelt by Sophia, grabbing her hand. Stay with her, I told my parents firmly. I'll guide the paramedics. They nodded, focused on Sophia, who was trembling. In the elevator, I called Taylor. Meet me in the lobby now, I said. Bring the recording. It's an emergency. Taylor and Zoe were there when the doors opened. Sophia collapsed, I said, rushing toward the entrance. Give the paramedics the toast video and say I suspect poisoning. Send me a backup. Poisoning? Zoe gasped, horrified. Elsie, what's happening? I'll explain later. Trust me. Ambulance sirens grew louder. I met the first paramedic. My sister collapsed upstairs, dizziness, disorientation, irregular heartbeat, tremors. I think she ingested a toxin in her champagne. He eyed me sharply. Poisoning? Why do you think that? I'm a biochemistry grad. Symptoms hit 30 minutes after she drank. My parents burst from the elevator, Dr. Lewis supporting a barely conscious Sophia. Paramedics rushed forward with a gurney, checking her vitals. Please, save her. Mom sobbed, mascara streaking. She just collapsed. BP's 90/60, dropping, a paramedic said. Pulse 120, irregular. As they loaded Sophia, Dad turned to me, his voice low and venomous. What did you do? Nothing, I said coolly. She took my glass. The special champagne you chose for me. His face twisted with rage and fear. You switched glasses on purpose. You knew. Knew what, Dad? That you spiked my drink? Why would I suspect that? I held his gaze. Unless you did. Family member in the ambulance, a paramedic cut in. One can ride along. I'll go, Mom said, climbing in. We'll follow, Dad growled, gripping my arm hard. All of us. The car ride to Northwestern Memorial Hospital was dead silent. Dad gripped the wheel, his jaw tight, while I sat in the back, heart pounding. Taylor and Zoe promised to meet me there. My phone buzzed, Taylor's text, videos in your email. It shows you switching glasses after your dad handed you one. What do I tell the police? Police. Of course, they'd come for a suspected poisoning. I texted back fast, tell them everything. Show the video. The ER was pure chaos. Sophia was rushed to a treatment area, Mom wailing to anyone listening about her perfect daughter collapsing for no reason. I marched to the nurse's station. I need to see my sister's doctor now. I think she was poisoned, and I might know what it is. The nurse raised an eyebrow until I added, I'm a biochemistry grad, specializing in pharmaceuticals. Please, time's critical. Soon, I was with Dr. Patel, Sophia's ER doctor. Your sister's showing signs of anticholinergic poisoning, she said. Fast heart rate, confusion, dilated pupils, dry mouth. We're treating her and running tox screens. Test for cyclopentolate derivatives, I urged. My dad's company, Harris Pharmaceuticals, works with modified versions. They're new compounds, not on standard screens. Dr. Patel's eyes widened. That's specific. Why suspect that? I took a deep breath. I think my father put it in my champagne, but Sophia drank it instead. She stayed calm but grabbed the phone. I'm calling the police. Within an hour, the ER became a crime scene. Detectives questioned staff, and an officer stood guard outside Sophia's room. My parents were split up for questioning, Mom loudly denying ridiculous claims, Dad demanding his lawyer. I sat with Detective Rivera in a small room. She had kind eyes but a no-nonsense vibe. Tell me what happened again, she said, pen ready. I laid it all out, the overheard plot, Dad slipping powder into my glass, my quick choice to swap with Sophia. My biochemistry training helped me spot the symptoms. I didn't think it could kill, but I wasn't sure. Why would your parents poison you? She asked, voice steady. Money and control, I said. My grandmother's $12 million trust kicks in next week. If I died first, they'd get it. Plus, their company's under FDA investigation, and they think I know too much. Detective Rivera scribbled, underlining something. That's a big accusation. I know, I said softly. My friend's video shows Dad giving me a specific glass and me switching with Sophia. Dr. Lewis can confirm family and company tensions. A knock cut us off. Dr. Patel walked in with a tablet. Preliminary tox results are in. We found a modified anticholinergic, close to cyclopentolate, a research compound not yet commercial. Detective Rivera glanced at us. Plain English, please. It's a lab-made drug that mimics food poisoning but hits the heart too, I said. Only someone with access to Harris Pharmaceuticals labs could get it. Will Sophia be okay? I asked Dr. Patel, my voice tight. We're giving physostigmine as an antidote, she said. She's serious but stable. Catching it early saved her from heart damage. Relief flooded me. Thank you, I whispered, closing my eyes. Detective Rivera studied me. You admit you let your sister drink what you thought was poisoned. My stomach sank. I didn't know what else to do. I needed proof. I thought it'd only make her sick, not kill her. My voice wavered. It was an awful choice, and I'll carry that guilt. The door flew open. Dad stormed in, a flustered officer and a slick-suited man behind him. This is absurd. Dad yelled. Elsie's unstable, jealous of Sophia's success. She's been slandering us for years. Mr. Harris, step outside, Detective Rivera said sharply, standing. Joseph, not another word, the suited man snapped, grabbing Dad's arm. I'm Gerald Thorne, his attorney. My client has nothing to say. Your client's not under arrest yet, Detective Rivera stressed, but he'd better cooperate. We've got video of the toast and tox reports showing a lab-grade drug in Sophia's system. Dad's face flashed through emotions before settling on icy rage. Elsie's always been a problem, he said, voice calm but cutting. Jealous of Sophia, bitter about our expectations. She's threatened to ruin our business out of spite. That's a lie. I snapped. We humored her environmental science obsession despite her duty to our company, he went on, ignoring me. We threw this lavish party to support her. And she repays us by staging this drama and letting her sister get sick. Gerald Thorne slid a business card across the table. Detective, will cooperate, but direct questions to me. The Harris family expects discretion in this community. After they stormed out, Detective Rivera picked up the card like it was toxic. Quite a family, Miss Harris. You don't know the half of it, I sighed, exhausted. Shouting in the hall grabbed our attention. Dr. Lewis was arguing with an officer outside Sophia's room. I'm her doctor, he insisted. I need to check her treatment. We stepped out as Dr. Lewis saw me. Elsie, thank God. They're saying your dad tried to poison you. What happened? Before I could respond, Dr. Patel came out of Sophia's room. Elsie, she's asking for you. She's groggy but awake. In the dim hospital room, guilt hit me hard. Sophia was hooked to monitors, and four in her arm, her perfect look gone, skin pale and sickly. Her eyes opened as I neared. Hey, I said softly, taking her hand. How do you feel? Like a truck ran me over, she rasped. Is it true? Did Dad really try to poison you? I nodded, tears welling up. I'm so sorry you drank it. I just acted. I didn't think. Why? She whispered, pain and confusion in her eyes. Why would he? Grandma Lillian's trust. The FDA investigation. They thought I'd exposed their West facility contamination. Her eyes cleared with realization. The locked reports on the secure server, she said, squeezing my hand. And Quant. I saw them last month, didn't get it. Heavy metals, disposal logs. They've been dumping waste in the watershed for years. A knock broke the moment. Detective Rivera entered with another officer. Miss Harris, new info, she said. The FBI's been investigating Harris Pharmaceuticals for 6 months, fraud, environmental crimes, fake trial data. I stared. The FBI? Yes. They were already watching your parents. After the poisoning, they shared evidence of major crimes. Search warrants just hit your family's offices and home. Sophia's monitors beeped, her heart rate spiking. Oh my God, she whispered. I signed some of those papers. Dad said they were standard filings. We'll talk later, Miss Harris, the other officer told Sophia. Rest for now. As they left, Sophia cried softly. I trusted them. Defended them when you complained about how they treated you. All along. I gripped her hand. You didn't know. They played us both, just differently. What's next? She asked, her usual confidence gone, replaced by fear. We tell the truth, I said firmly. Every bit of it. 2 days later, the Chicago Tribune screamed, Pharma CEO and wife arrested for attempted murder of daughter. Smaller headlines read, FBI exposes fraud and environmental crimes at Harris Pharmaceuticals. Our family name, once tied to success and charity, now stood for greed and betrayal. I crashed at Taylor and Zoe's place, dodging reporters staking out my apartment. Sophia stayed in the hospital 4 more days before our Aunt Patricia, Mom's estranged sister, flew in from Seattle to care for her. Over coffee in the hospital cafeteria, Patricia shook her head. I always knew Eleanor could be cruel, she said, but this? I should have kept in touch with you too. The investigation snowballed. FBI search warrants uncovered damning documents at our home and Harris offices. Emails showed years of faked safety data for 3 major drugs. Tests revealed illegal toxic waste dumping, polluting groundwater near the West facility. Detective Rivera updated me on the poisoning case. The lab confirmed an experimental anticholinergic from your dad's private facility, she said. He signed it out 3 days before your graduation. We found his dosage notes in his home office. I cooperated fully, sharing all I knew about the company and my parents. Days blurred with police interviews, prosecutor meetings, and checking on Sophia's recovery. A week later, Special Agent Donovan from the FBI showed me photos. Recognize this place? He asked, spreading images of a storage unit packed with documents, laptops, and vials in temperature-controlled cases. No, I said, confused. I've never seen it. It's rented under your name, he said, watching me closely. Opened 6 months ago with a forged signature. A chill hit me. They planned this for months, framing me if the poisoning failed. Seems so, Donovan nodded. Your dad's computer had multiple plans. The poisoning was Plan C, Plans A and B were setups to pin corporate espionage and data theft on you. More secrets spilled out. Financial records showed my parents funneled company money into offshore accounts for years. Ex-employees reported being fired for raising safety flags. 3 families sued, claiming loved ones died from side effects Harris Pharmaceuticals hid during trials. Sophia and I grew closer than ever. Her perfect daughter mask shattered as she faced their betrayal. I was their puppet, she confessed in her hospital room. Everything I did was to make them proud. My whole identity was being the ideal Harris. You were their shield, I said gently. Your success let them paint me as the problem child, avoiding their own flaws. 2 weeks later, we learned our parents were held without bail, deemed flight risks due to their overseas wealth. Their hearing was set for the next week. On hearing day, Sophia and I grabbed breakfast at a quiet cafe far from the courthouse. She moved slowly, still weak from the poison. You ready? I asked, poking at my cold coffee. No, she admitted. But I need to face them. Reporters swarmed the courthouse steps, yelling questions as we approached. Inside, the room hushed as we entered, eyes on the poisoned sister and me. Our parents sat at the defense table, dressed sharply despite detention. Mom's eyes teared up seeing Sophia, but Dad stared ahead, ignoring us. The evidence was brutal. The prosecution played the toast video, clearly showing Dad handing me the spiked glass and my swap with Sophia. Tox reports matched the drug to samples from Dad's lab. Financial records proved their motive, my trust fund, which they'd get if I died. The courtroom gasped at a recorded call from Dad in detention, telling an associate to clean up those river samples, and calling me the problem child, clueless about family loyalty. The judge ruled there was ample evidence for trial, including attempted murder. Mom collapsed in dramatic sobs. Dad stayed stone-faced, his clenched jaw the only hint of his rage. Outside, reporters mobbed us. Sophia grabbed my hand and faced them. We're fully cooperating with authorities. Please respect our privacy as we process our parents' betrayal. Thank you. As we pushed toward our car, a reporter shouted, "Did you know Elsie switched the glasses? Were you in on it?" Sophia spun around, fire in her eyes. My sister saved my life. Our parents tried to poison her. She had seconds to act. She carries guilt for my pain, but Joseph and Eleanor Harris are the only ones to blame. They'd kill their daughter for money and to hide their crimes. That's your story. In the days after, distant relatives reached out, cousins, aunts, even Dad's brother, shunned years ago for exposing a past company scandal. Our family tree was rotten with control, manipulation, and revenge against anyone who defied the Harris way. Sophia and I started untangling ourselves from our parents legally and financially. We hired Vivian Santos, a kind but sharp attorney, to guide us. Your grandmother's trust is safe, she said. The trustees fast-tracked it due to the circumstances. Harris Pharmaceuticals is trickier. I want nothing to do with it, I said firmly. Sophia nodded. Same, but we owe it to innocent employees and the communities hurt by the contamination. Your parents' assets are another issue, Vivian added. The government will seize much for victim restitution, but some wealth will likely pass to you as their only kids. I glanced at Sophia, seeing my own mixed feelings. We'll need time to decide, I said. As summer rolled on, the case against our parents grew stronger. 3 former executives agreed to testify for lighter sentences. Tests confirmed massive contamination from mishandled chemicals, with cleanup costs topping $100 million. In August, 2 months after the party, Sophia and I went back to our childhood home with FBI agents to find more evidence. The cold, perfect rooms felt like a museum of our past, sterile and hollow. In Dad's study, an agent handed me a small leather journal. Recognize this, Miss Harris? I opened it carefully. The pages were old, filled with Grandma Lillian's handwriting, detailing her worries about Harris Pharmaceuticals years ago. Her last entry, written before she died, said, "I've ensured Elsie's financial freedom. She has the heart and strength to end this family's toxic cycle." Tears welled as I showed Sophia. She knew, I whispered. She was protecting me all along. And you protected me, Sophia said, squeezing my hand. That's real family. 6 months after the graduation nightmare, I stood on the porch of Grandma's lake house, watching the November sun dance on the water. The lake house, part of my inheritance, was my peaceful childhood escape. Now, it was my temporary home as I planned my future. The trust came through 3 weeks after the incident, rushed by the trustees given the chaos. My first move was setting up a fund for Sophia's medical care and therapy. Her body was healing, but the emotional scars lingered. Hot chocolate delivery. Sophia called, stepping onto the porch with 2 steaming mugs, draped in one of my oversized sweaters. She'd moved in a month ago, leaving her condo and its memories of parental praise and corporate dinners behind. Perfect timing, I said, smiling as I grabbed a mug. I was just thinking how our lives have flipped upside down. Completely, Sophia said, settling into the Adirondack chair beside me. Remember those summer nights here with Grandma Lillian? We'd stay up late, sprawled on blankets, counting stars while she spun tales of women scientists who reshaped the world. I laughed softly. Mom despised those trips. She was convinced Grandma was filling our heads with dangerous ideas about independence. She wasn't wrong, Sophia said, her smile fading into something heavier. The prosecutors called this morning. They're offering a plea deal. My fingers tightened around the mug, the warmth grounding me. What's the deal? 20 years for Dad, attempted murder and environmental crimes. 15 for Mom if she testifies about the fraud. She hesitated. They want to know if we're okay with it. I stared out at the lake, where an eagle glided lazily above the shimmering water. Do you want to object? I'm torn, she admitted, her voice soft. Part of me wants a full trial to drag every dirty secret into the light. But another part just wants to close this chapter. I get it, I said, nodding. It's exhausting either way. We sat in silence, the lake's gentle lapping filling the space. Once strangers sharing the same last name, we'd forged a bond through shared trauma. Now, it was blossoming into real friendship, rooted in trust and understanding. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Lewis. Your environmental job interview was a hit. They loved your pharmaceutical waste cleanup plan. Call me for details. I grinned, showing Sophia the message. After the storm of the past months, I'd started reaching out to environmental firms tackling industrial pollution. My biochemistry degree, paired with my passion for environmental science, made me a perfect fit for cleaning up pharmaceutical messes. It felt like justice, using the Harris legacy to heal the damage it caused. Sophia was carving her own path. She'd quit Harris Pharmaceuticals the moment she left the hospital, then spent months helping investigators unravel the company's web of crimes. Now, inspired by the prosecutors and victim advocates she'd met, she was leaning toward law school, eager to fight for environmental justice and corporate accountability. Our old house gets seized next week, she said, referring to the cold mansion we grew up in. They asked if we want to grab anything personal first. I shook my head. Nothing there I need. You? I took the real photo albums, she said. Not Mom's staged family portraits for the magazines, but the candid ones Nora snapped over the years. Nora, our housekeeper for 15 years, had been the closest thing to a warm maternal figure in our lives. Have you heard from her? I asked. She's in Florida with her daughter, Sophia said. Sent me a care package last week, homemade cookies and a note saying she always knew we'd break free from their grip. The legal battle trudged on, a slow grind through the courts. Our parents kept up their innocent act for the public, but their lawyers were scrambling behind closed doors. Every week, new evidence surfaced as former employees spilled secrets, painting a clearer picture of the Harris Empire's rot. The worst blow came from corporate emails, revealing our parents had known about the environmental contamination for over a decade. Downstream communities suffered higher cancer rates and birth defects, silenced with hush money and falsified studies. The betrayal cut deeper than the poisoning attempt. It wasn't just personal, it was monstrously reckless. I channeled my fury into action, pouring part of my inheritance into a foundation to provide healthcare and environmental testing for those affected communities. It couldn't undo the pain, but it was a step toward repairing the Harris name's toxic legacy. As fresher scandals grabbed the media's attention, the spotlight on us dimmed, giving Sophia and me room to rebuild. I started volunteering with a local water quality program, testing samples from the lake. There was peace in the quiet work, protecting something pure and untouched by my family's shadow. 7 months after that horrific graduation party, on a frigid January morning, Sophia and I sat in the courtroom as our parents accepted their plea deals. They looked diminished, designer suits swapped for plain attire, their once commanding presence worn down by months in detention. Mom wept quietly as the judge read her charges, her face crumpling under the weight of her crimes. Dad stared into the distance, refusing to meet our eyes, his daughters sitting just feet away in the gallery. When asked if they wanted to speak before sentencing, Mom shook her head, tears falling. Dad stood, and for a fleeting second, I hoped he'd show remorse. Instead, he launched into a speech about his contributions to medicine, framing himself as a guardian of the family business. He painted himself as a victim of evolving regulations, confident history would see him as a hero. He never mentioned the poisoned communities, the patients harmed by faked drug data, or his attempt to murder me. In his mind, he was still the righteous one, doing what was necessary. As the bailiff led them away to start their sentences, a tangle of emotions hit me: grief for the family we might have had, anger at their refusal to own their actions, and a tidal wave of relief. The nightmare was finally over. Outside, away from the dwindling pack of reporters, Dr. Lewis, Taylor, and Zoe waited, my chosen family, who'd held me up through every step of this ordeal. "How do you feel?" Taylor asked, wrapping me in a tight hug. "Free," I said, the word carrying a lightness I hadn't felt in years. Like I can finally breathe. In the months that followed, Sophia and I walked our separate but connected paths to healing. We sold off our parents' personal assets, channeling the money into a victim compensation fund to help those hurt by Harris Pharmaceuticals. I took the job with the environmental remediation firm, diving into the cleanup of the West facility's toxic mess. Sophia started law school, fueled by a mission to hold corporations accountable and protect the environment. We held on to the lake house, our sanctuary filled with memories untainted by our parents' control. We'd spend evenings on the dock, talking late into the night, sorting through the grief of losing the family we'd known and the one we'd never truly had. One evening, as the sunset bathed the lake in gold and crimson, Sophia asked, "Do you think you'll ever forgive them?" I paused, letting the question settle. "Forgiveness doesn't feel right," I said. "I've accepted who they are and let go of the anger, it was only poisoning me. But forgiveness needs their remorse, and I don't think they're capable of that." She nodded, her eyes distant. Nature or nurture? Were they born this cruel, or did something twist them? And what does that mean for us? "We get to choose," I said, my voice steady. "Their blood runs through us, but their values don't define us. We decide who we become." A year after that fateful party, I stood at a podium, speaking at a conference on pharmaceutical pollution. I shared new strategies for cleaning up industrial waste, my voice steady with purpose. In the audience, Sophia filmed me, her smile proud, surrounded by Dr. Lewis, Taylor, Zoe, and a growing circle of friends and colleagues who'd become our lifeline. The pain of the past year was beyond what I could have imagined, but in that moment, I found something I'd never known in the Harris household: true belonging. It wasn't built on obedience, achievements, or blood ties, but on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine care. My parents saw me as a threat to eliminate, trying to poison not just my body but my independence, my spirit, my very sense of self. By standing my ground and refusing to play their victim or become their villain, I uncovered a strength I didn't know I had. Grandma Lillian's inheritance was a financial lifeline, but her true gift was something deeper: her unwavering belief that I could shatter the toxic cycle of the Harris family. That faith didn't just save me, it became the compass guiding every step of my future, pointing me toward a life I could define on my own terms. The lake house, nestled by the shimmering water 2 hours from Chicago, transformed from a childhood escape into a symbol of what Sophia and I could create when we chose our own paths. It was our sanctuary, a place untouched by our parents' cold control. On weekends, we filled it with laughter and warmth, inviting our chosen family, Taylor, Zoe, Dr. Lewis, and new friends from work and school. We'd fire up the grill for dinners, sprawl across the living room floor for board games, and swap stories under a blanket of stars, crafting memories that felt genuine, not staged for some glossy magazine spread. One crisp fall evening, as we gathered around a crackling fire pit, Sophia raised her glass of sparkling cider. She still shied away from alcohol after the poisoning, a quiet reminder of that awful day. "To us," she said, her voice steady and strong. "To building something better than what we came from." I clinked my glass against hers, the sound sharp in the cool air. "To choosing our own family," I added, my gaze sweeping over the smiling faces glowing in the firelight, people who loved us for who we were, not what we could do for them. The legal fallout from our parents' crimes kept unfolding, each revelation peeling back another layer of their deceit. The FBI's investigation into Harris Pharmaceuticals grew like a storm, uncovering decades of fraud and environmental violations. Colleagues who'd once been fiercely loyal to our parents turned, cooperating with authorities to save themselves. They exposed secret deals, doctored clinical trials, and cover-ups that stretched back to the company's early days. Harris Pharmaceuticals, once a towering name in the industry, now faced crippling fines and a reputation in ruins. I threw myself into my work with a fire I hadn't known I possessed. I'd landed a role with an environmental remediation firm, collaborating with scientists and engineers to develop cutting-edge methods to neutralize pharmaceutical pollutants. Every small breakthrough, a new filtration technique, a way to break down toxic compounds, felt like a personal victory. I was rewriting the Harris legacy, turning knowledge that had been used to harm into a force for healing. My foundation, funded by part of my inheritance, grew steadily, pouring resources into clean water initiatives and medical care for communities poisoned by my family's negligence. Each step forward gave me purpose, a way to atone for the damage my parents caused. Sophia was forging her own path, her sharp mind thriving in law school. She'd resigned from Harris Pharmaceuticals the moment she was discharged from the hospital, severing ties with the company that had shaped her identity for so long. Months spent helping investigators untangle the company's crimes had lit a spark in her. She interned with a nonprofit dedicated to environmental justice, channeling her anger into advocacy for those harmed by corporate greed. We'd meet for coffee between her classes and my fieldwork, our conversations buzzing with ideas: how to hold polluters accountable, how to protect vulnerable communities, how to build a future where no one else suffered like those downstream from our family's factories. Our Aunt Patricia became a steady presence in our lives, making the trip from Seattle to the lake house whenever she could. Over cups of tea on the porch, she shared stories of her own rebellion against the Harris family's iron grip, how she'd walked away decades ago after refusing to play by their rules. Her tales helped us piece together the patterns of control and manipulation that had defined our family for generations. "You two are the first to truly break free," she said one sunny afternoon, her voice warm with pride. Lillian would be beaming right now. The media frenzy that had hounded us for months finally faded, eclipsed by newer scandals. The occasional article still dredged up the Harris sisters and our parents' downfall, but we learned to tune out the noise. I started a blog to share my environmental work, writing about clean water solutions and sustainable practices. To my surprise, it found a small but passionate audience: activists, scientists, and students who cared about the same issues. Young scientists began reaching out for advice, and I found myself mentoring them, passing on the knowledge I'd fought so hard to gain. Sophia, too, stepped into the public eye, giving talks at law school events about corporate accountability. Her poise and raw passion drew crowds, and she used our family's story as a stark warning. "We can't erase the past," she'd say, her voice steady but fierce, "but we can demand a better future." Her words resonated, turning our pain into a call for change. One spring evening, as we wandered the lakehouse trails, wildflowers bursting in vibrant patches around us, a quiet strength settled in my chest. The weight of my parents' betrayal still lingered, but it no longer held me captive. I was building a life rooted in purpose, surrounded by people who saw me for me, not a pawn in someone else's game. Sophia paused to pluck a wildflower, tucking it behind her ear with a half-smile. "We're doing okay, aren't we?" "Better than okay," I said, grinning back. "We're building something real." The lake house became our anchor, a place where we could be ourselves without the shadow of our parents' expectations. We'd host impromptu gatherings, Taylor and Zoe bringing their infectious energy, Dr. Lewis sharing stories from his days as a researcher, and new friends from our respective worlds adding fresh perspectives. The house, once quiet except for childhood summers with Grandma, now hummed with life, laughter, and the clink of glasses raised in toasts to new beginnings. One quiet morning, as mist rose off the lake, I found an old photo of Grandma Lillian tucked in a drawer, a candid shot of her laughing, her eyes bright with the same fire I'd always admired. It reminded me of her journal, the one we'd found in Dad's safe, where she'd written about securing my independence. Her words echoed in my mind, "She alone has the conscience and strength to break the cycle of this family's poison." That belief had been her greatest gift, a lifeline that carried me through the darkest moments. Sophia's recovery, both physical and emotional, was a journey of its own. The poisoning had left scars, not just the trauma of the act but the betrayal of being her parents' golden child, molded to fit their vision. Therapy helped her untangle the years of manipulation, and living at the lake house gave her space to rediscover herself. She'd wander the trails with a notebook, jotting down ideas for legal cases or sketching wildflowers, reclaiming small pieces of joy. Our foundation grew into a force for change. We partnered with local organizations to install water filtration systems in affected communities, funded health screenings for families exposed to toxins, and supported grassroots campaigns to tighten regulations on industrial waste. Every letter from a community member thanking us for clean water or a doctor's visit felt like a step toward redemption, not just for us, but for the Harris name. The legal case against our parents, though settled with plea deals, left ripples. Former executives faced their own charges, and the company was dismantled, its assets sold to cover fines and restitution. The West facility, once a symbol of my parents' ambition, became my focus, a site where I could test new cleanup methods, turning a place of harm into one of healing. One rainy afternoon, as I sat with Sophia in a cozy cafe near her law school, she looked at me over her latte and said, "I used to think I had to be perfect to be loved. Now I know love doesn't demand perfection, it just demands honesty." I nodded, stirring my tea. That's what Grandma gave us. Not just money, but the truth, that we could be more than what our parents wanted. We talked about our dreams, mine to expand my environmental work globally, hers to argue landmark cases that would set new standards for corporate responsibility. The future felt wide open, no longer constrained by the Harris legacy of control. As summer approached, we planned a gathering at the lake house, a celebration of our first year free from our parents' shadow. Taylor and Zoe arrived with armfuls of groceries, Dr. Lewis brought his old telescope for stargazing, and Patricia rolled in with stories and a bottle of her favorite wine. New friends joined us, their laughter filling the air as we grilled burgers and played music late into the night. Standing on the dock, watching the moonlight ripple across the lake, I felt a peace I'd never known growing up. The Harris name had once been a weight, a chain of expectations and lies. Now, it was a blank slate, one Sophia and I were rewriting with every choice we made. Have you ever had to break free from toxic ties to find your own path? What gave you the strength to keep moving forward? My story is a reminder that blood doesn't justify harm, and the truest families are the ones we build with love, not control. If my journey speaks to you, like and subscribe for more stories of resilience and renewal. Truth is the antidote to poison. Thank you for sharing this journey with me.